Everybody after a long time. And Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you had a nice start to the year. And we're going to do our eighth session today. And the last session we did, I think, was in October. And we've been busy with our classes this year. So we didn't want to wait any longer. We really wanted to do this session. And we're going to, before we start this session, we're going to talk a little bit about the entire structure of the Pushti Youth Learning course. And so I'll let Dhaval Bhai come and speak a little bit about that.
Thank you very much, Nupur. And if you can go to the next slide, please.
There you go.
Yeah, and if probably it would be good to zoom in a little bit more.
Let me see if I can. Oops, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe zoom out a little bit. There you go. Thank you. First of all, I apologize not showing my face. I look horrible, by the way. It's 7 a.m. right now, and I just woke up 15 minutes ago. So if I show my face, I don't know if you'd recognize me. So, all right. So, um, the what I have received so many questions from all of you, and also to the team, um, that where are we heading towards? What's our goal? And what is the grand schema? Why are we taking the topics that we have taken before? For example, we have been talking about the importance of philosophy, the four-dimensional nature of the knowledge, including science, philosophy, art, and religion. And I think we also took up a subject and topic on the objectivity versus subjectivity, and are we really creating opinions based on subjectivity or objectivity? We have taken topics related to the knowledge itself, like how do we actually gain the knowledge of anything, um, and so on and so forth. And the question definitely comes as to where are we heading towards? Why? How is this related to Pushti Marg? How is this related to the philosophy of Vallabhacharya? Why are we even starting off with this topics? Why are we not discussing about Vedic religion? Why are we not discussing about Vallabhacharya's theory? So many curiosity, so much curiosity, so many questions that might that might be in your mind about asking to us that why are these topics designed like the way they are designed, and where are we heading towards? What's the ultimate goal, and where do we want to reach, and how do we want to reach to that ultimate goal? So it would be good to give you a kind of overview of the course structure that we have designed, and that might give you an understanding of the grand schema as to why we are taking up these topics that we have taken up before in the past, and why are we taking up that we are taking up right now. And then it would also give an overview of where are we heading towards and how basically we want to head towards to that destination. So what we are thinking, based on the experience, based on the interactions that we have had, teaching, training the youths about the Pushti Marg, is one thing we have for sure come to realization based on our experience working with particularly youths, is it is not good approach to directly jump into Pushti Marg. It's not a good approach to jump directly into the religion and the aspects of theism. The theism means anything that is related, anything that believes in God. That's what we call it as theism. It is not good to directly jump into those concepts directly. It is good to build up the background before we jump into theism, anti-theism, agnosticism, um, Vaishnavism in particular, and then in Pushtimarg in particular, to be very specific. It's not good to directly jump into those concepts. A solid foundation is the key here. And so, what we are envisioning is we start with a basic concept of how we know things in general. How do we perceive things in general? How do we conceptualize those things in general in our mind? What are the ways to know a thing? What are the branches of knowledge? How do we gain the knowledge of something in our mind in general? And then we want to understand and we want to discuss on the topic. Once you have the solid foundation of the branches of knowledge like philosophy, science, art, and religion, which we did take up in the past sessions, then what we want to head towards to the next step. And the next step is how do we, after understanding the process of acquiring the knowledge of something, how do we ensure that it is valid? Whatever knowledge that we have acquired, is it valid? Is it invalid? Is it erroneous prone? Or is it pure, pristine, non-erroneous, absolutely valid knowledge? And if it is invalid, or if it is erroneous, why is it so? And then that will allow you to us to understand the limitations of our sensory organs, if that's the case. Again, this is in terms of question, and the discussion will probably make the subject matter more clear. When things are clear, if the sensory organs have limitations or not, why are there limitations? How can we remove those limitations of our sensory organs to understand an object? More particularly, we want to head towards the epistemology of the subject, which we call that as in under the umbrella of epistemology in this slide. Epistemology is a branch of knowledge to validate your knowledge and understand a specific object. That's the term that we technically use to refer to these subject matters under one umbrella, which is called as, again, epistemology. And without scaring you all away by the jargons and bombastic words of epistemology, we're kind of sneaking in these agenda items without your knowledge and making it simpler for you all. And that's why we were not using these bombastic names and terms and terminologies, to keep it simple. So that's first. Then the question arises as to, should we rely on our sensory organs to know everything or not? And the basic question that we are trying to answer is, what is the concept of God? Is God a empirical subject matter where we can experience him and understand it, similar to the regular objects, worldly objects? Are there any means to know God through experience? That suddenly we go and say, all right, let me experience God, and that's how I acquire the knowledge about God? Or God is a logical concept where we can we can do an easy chair method. We can start thinking about it. We can come up with logical conclusions or causes and effect, or apply any kind of other types of logic to justify the existence of God. Can we do that? Can we logically use a system, or can we have a logical system to justify God, or existence or non-existence of God, whatever the case is? Or is God a purely a verbal concept? And what do we mean by verbal concept? That's the second topic we want to head towards, which is under the umbrella, which falls under the umbrella of Vedic religion. And we will explore the avenues of all the three ways to knowing God. Is it experienceable? Is it the subject of logic? Or is it a pure verbal phenomena or a pure verbal concept? Based on that, we will hop on to understanding a specific object using a verbal testimony. And once you understand the verbal testimony, it will be an easier segue to knowing the concept of God and understanding bit more better about God. Because unless we define something, we cannot understand it. And we cannot have evidence to understand that object. So what we will do is we will define God. We'll come to the common consensus of what is the definition of God. Once we have a common definition of God, then we can explore the means of knowing the God. Is it empirically possible, or is it logically possible, or is it a pure logical concept, or is a pure verbal concept? Once we define the God, once we know the means of knowing the God, then we can hop on to the next topic, which is theism. Then we will justify what are theistic, antitheistic, atheistic, and agnostic schools of thought. We'll do comparative analysis. And science also will be part of it. Once we understand all of these areas, explore all of these areas, we'll understand, we'll have a solid foundation of why God exists, if so, at that point of time. Once we have a solid foundation of theism, then it makes sense to go ahead with the Vaishnavism or a Vaishnav sects. And there are many Vaishnav sects, which I don't want to go into details in this moment right now. Once we understand the different philosophical aspects of Vaishnavism, why only Lord Krishna? Why not Lord Narayana? Why not Lord Shiva? Why not we are devoted to other gods or demigods or goddesses? Why only Krishna? And once we answer that question, then it would be a great way to introduce you to the philosophy of Vallabhacharya, the system of Vallabhacharya, under the umbrella of Pushti Bhakti sect. I hope this makes sense. It was a bit of mouthful from my side, and I'm open to any questions related to this topic that I just presented. I hope this will give you a bird's view. I hope this gives you a kind of a holistic perspective of where we are and where do we want to head towards, and especially how do we want to head towards where we are heading towards. I'll take a pause and see if there are any live questions.
Please feel free to have any question. Those who are attending our session definitely would like to get feedback from our group.
Thank you, Dhaval. Yeah, really very well explained. No questions at this point of time, but we're excited to take further classes and understand this journey.
Yeah, thanks. And we can also do changes. I mean, we are open to changing this structure. This is not written in stone. Basic thing is we want to cater towards the audience, and audience is you. So if you want to give feedback to us live, offline, to any specific person from the group, please feel free to provide the feedback. Absolutely flexible, absolutely open to changing the structure of the course. But we just wanted to give context as to why are we taking up these topics.
Yep, sure, Dhaval bhai. If you have any questions, definitely you have given us that friendly environment that we can go ahead and ask without any hesitation. So definitely, thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, if there are no questions, or maybe if you have questions, you can put them in chat. If you have suggestions to change the structure, we'll be happy to incorporate your feedback and cater to that and change the structure. If you have any other innovative additions to make in the structure, please let us know through chat if you like, or live also during the session. But having said that, I'll give it over back to Nupur or Mitesh Bhai. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tawal Bhai. This was really, really good. Like, even I am feeling a little enlightened right now. So like one objective for us to conduct these sessions is to make it very inclusive, like not in terms of just attendance, but like participation as well, right? Like the structure that has been shared just now, it is, there's a lot going on, and like any inputs would be like really good, like to, it will actually increase receptivity, it'll also increase curiosity. So anything comes up at any point, please do share. I'll move on to the next slide, which is about sorry, yeah. So we'll just do a quick recap again of the previous sessions. We've talked about objectivity, subjectivity, we've talked about art, science, religion. We've done comparative study of art, science, religion, philosophy. And in the last session, we were discussing analyzing an object and stages of observation. So I hope you were able to attend those sessions. If not, they're there on YouTube channel. So can someone please post the link here on the chat whenever they get a chance to the YouTube channel, so you can check out the previous sessions if you're curious, in case you're not able to attend. And now to discuss like just very briefly about the last session where we discussed the stages of observation. So you can see on the screen that there are 7 stages. Starts from the object being in the area of our awareness. Then there is stimulation. Stimulation doesn't always happen. There are so many objects around us. We're not always stimulated by all the objects. And then something comes into a particular notice, like a stronger notice, that's sensation, and that is done through our sensory organs, the 7 sensory organs, and 5 sensory organs. And then the 4th stage is perception. So we actually perceive. It goes a little deeper in towards it. It's the journey towards the brain. It's perception and then recollection. So that's when memory gets involved, and you're kind of just analyzing the existing data and trying to process what's happening around you, what's the sensation. And then recognize on the sixth stage, and then there is a concept that's formed. Now, what we are going to do to understand this further is we're going to do a comparative study. Sorry, my slides are not working as well as they should today. So we're going to do a comparative study between stages and functions of a CCTV camera and stages and functions of human, how we perceive, how we recognize, recollect, conceive, and same for the camera, because like, we've all used cameras at some point. It's very usual for everyone to have a cell phone. So we thought a camera would be a really good tool to actually understand these concepts better. So I'm gonna hand over to Mitesh uncle now to carry on the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Jai Krishna all. Last time we touched base on this all 7 stages of observation, and I think we had a chance to look at all these stages. And I think we started with, I think, object and stimulations and up to sensation. So I would like to keep this conversation interactive within all of us to actually provide our input to see one by one stages. So here you can see the first, we start with the object, whether object would be living or non-living, doesn't matter. I think we're talking about any object that we see, and and then here in this case, I think we are doing a comparative study with CCTV camera, and then from human perspective, we are looking at our eyes. So out of 5 sensory organ, we are talking about eyes that we're looking at the object. So I would like to open the floor for here our team to actually provide input on these things, CCTV camera and comparing our eyes. So starting with the object, what normally, like how, like who does the simulation? I would like to actually start with the question right now. We have a lot of participants here. So when we see the object on our eyes, so what the first thing happen is stimulation. I would like to actually ask the question, looking at any object, last time we discussed the 5 sensory organ. Could you please, one of probably raise your hand and probably elaborate more on the stimulation, please? Like who, what,
We can
Go ahead.
start with like just jumping in. People can jump in into and explaining how camera works, like how do they identify objects.
Okay.
Let's start with that. Like anyone want to? Yeah, there's a raise hand.
Yes, Nilesh bhai, you can unmute.
Yeah, when we see an object, we use our eyes to see the object. That means when we fathom that there is something. Now what is that something? That there is a stimulation, that is an impression, sanskar, which we call, and that leads to knowledge. Knowledge means we inquire what it is. So in our chit, all the millions of things are stored in it. So the stimulation, then sensation, we perceive what it is, and the brain, the signal goes to the brain that what it is. Now in the chit or in the brain, lot of things are stored in there. So that concept is there, and then concept, and then we compare that, well, this is an object, what is the corresponding name for it? So if we know it, then our brain sends the signals to our sense organs, how to react and what to do. Now if we are comfortable with the object, we would like to use it or do something which would make us happy. If it is a reverse, then we would not do it. This is one aspect.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we want that. That's a great way to kick off the conversation. If you can like dive deep into how camera works specifically, then we can go towards how the mind works. But we want to start with the camera system. So if anybody wants to take a stab at it, like how a typical camera works, maybe all the stages.
Those who are technical guys, probably definitely they can explain. CCTV camera or just example of our cell phone or mobile. Like when you, yeah, just explain, anybody can actually give open floor, yeah.
Jai Shri Krishna, this is Harsh.
Hey, Harsh.
Let me try. As per my understanding, the camera basically looks for the pictures around as per their parameters. I mean, till the time they have the reach, they capture the pictures. Then they have a backup where they store the pictures. And whenever if somebody wants to recheck the pictures, then they can just open the backup storage and then they can see the backup pictures, whatever has been collected by the cameras.
Okay, no, great. Great start right now. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that was a really good answer. So now, if like, there are so many different types of cameras we use. One of them is CCTV camera. So CCTV camera, especially the stimulated one, which would detect motion, which would detect faces. There are like a lot of different technologies these days. So maybe talking about like really advanced high tech CCTV camera, which can recognize faces, which can recognize motion, people. What happens in the system? Anyone wants to take another stab at it? Yeah, Vishwa.
Anybody can jump in here? Like
Yeah,
this is just open discussion. Like
Sanvi raised the hand. Go ahead, Sanvi.
Yeah, I'll try. So I think that like a CCTV camera would like detect motion or like anything that's going around in the surroundings. And when it collects that data, it like the images would be transmitted like depending on like the camera it is. Maybe they would those images would be transmitted through a cable or maybe like wirelessly to like a recording device, which is displayed on a monitor that allows the video footage to be seen by the people that are viewing it.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what if there was some recognition technology, like there are crime investigation departments, forensics and such, where sorry, probably not forensics, but FBI, perhaps they would have this technology where they're trying to find someone who resembles a certain face that they have in their system. What would happen with such a camera if it's like out in the public?
Go ahead, Vishwa.
Yeah, like my iPhone has this sort of technology too. Like it has its whole repository of like pictures. So in this case, like the CCTV camera would have a repository of a video. And then I'm sure they employ some sort of facial recognition software, sometimes like some type of potentially artificial intelligence, which is able to recognize like certain faces. So like my iPhone will be like, oh, do you want to see all of your pictures over the past year? And it's able to go through all my pictures and recognize my face specifically. And I'm sure that's like something similar to what like the FBI would use to kind of find a specific face out of like a whole video footage.
Great explanation. So yeah, you can see that is the hardware and software. Now we talk about there is some software in the background. There's the hardware, you can see it. Now that's a great explanation, but somebody can explain, like, is that CCTV camera always try to be on, or maybe based on like what is going to start? Let's say example recording, or what like in what case is going to start kicks in, like if there is a software is involved. So stimulation is going to happen first. Can somebody explain what that camera is always active, or is going to start as soon as it sees some activity? So there are a lot of intelligent software available. So
Yes, it could start maybe based on when it detects a motion or a face basically. So in current scenario, in current days, we can have such softwares, AI built softwares, so which can help to detect motion and only then record those videos. If especially at say at night time, so it may not in general throughout the night may record it, but if at all it detects any movements or any other motion, so in that case it will record it immediately and even try to detect the faces. And in one of the serials, sorry, I'm going off the track, but in one of those Hollywood series, I had seen that it was called Person of Interest. So there they are able to even detect the crimes, and even just by detecting a face, they were able to even get the information of that person from US. So they will get all the details of that person. So that was a very nice technology where just by detecting the face, they were able to get into that kind of information. They had the database connected to it, and they could get all the information. So as I said, like maybe that way it can help us. And due to the motion, it will help to. It means it can trigger the recording or capturing of data and pass it on to the server for storing.
oh, the great explanation. Yeah, that's really great. Now we can see it on the airport now nowadays. They have the facial recognition. They can right away figure it out who is entering, who is exiting. So they can take it. All depend upon how artificial intelligence software, like whatever the intelligence software is prepared, like how it is built, configured. You can probably detect what before the crime happened. They can right away figure it out who is entering, who is exiting. So really great, the great explanation. So you can see that the sensation normally start that that organ, like we can see that as a camera, as a sensor that can sense it. But on the background, there are a lot of things going on. So these are the 7 steps. Actually, they are all connected together. It goes so fast. Actually, we won't recognize it. These are the stages actually happening. It gives you result in a quick second. So that's why. But I think it's very important for us to actually learn it, how the software and how the hardware is involved, how the different actually stages happening, like how it connected to the conscious system. It's definitely better to actually compare it. It's given an analysis right now. So I greatly explain, Bhavin. Now we get to the, if somebody can actually explain the sensation to the perception. Like let's look at it. What's the perception? How do you think the perception? Like what is the background? You already explained it. Let's go more to the more detail about it. Now sensation happen on the camera side. So it starts recording as soon as they see some stimulation going on, basically through the senses. But what do you mean by perception? What faculties, what is involved in a perception? Can somebody can provide any input? Just think about the camera, how it's going to happen exactly. Anybody can jump in. Rajat, welcome.
So, but according to me, perception, in general terms, it would be just the perception would be a thought process or the thing that you perceive when the senses are like when everything is simulated and you're able to sense something. So let's say for a blind person, someone touches his part of the body, then first the simulation would go through the brain, and then simulation would let them know that someone has touched, and that would make them feel like they have sensed something, so that's sensation. And then perception would be the brain thinking, what was it? Was it a finger? Was it a hand? What did my body touch to? So that I would define perception as that, like brain thinking of something, what's going on after the sensation has been simulated.
No, great, Raja. Thank you. So you now, in terms of CCTV camera, he explained it that when we sense it, the perception would be to mind, like, attached to the mind is right way. I think we are trying to compare the CCTV camera with the human things right now. So can anybody elaborate? I think somebody actually put some chat here. Just hold on, I'm going to open this chat. Perception is basically recognizing your stimuli and registering by understanding. This is combined with your pre-existing knowledge of that stimuli. Great, Kusali. Can you please elaborate more?
Yes, I'm sorry I cannot turn my camera on right now.
Okay.
Perception basically is you recognizing your stimuli, understanding it by registering that information that you receive, and then you apply your pre-existing knowledge that you have. Maybe you would have recognized that stimuli before, or maybe you haven't. So you try to reason that what that stimuli is doing to you, or what thought process has started to occur in your brain, and then it leads to the next stage, which is recollection. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So you register it, you understand it, and you connect the dots with your past experience.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Let's move on. I think our faculty is also involved. Yes, we're trying to compare it with the CCTV camera. Let's look at the CCTV camera. Let's see how our human behavior, human consciousness is working right now. So it's a great way to explain it. Now, just to give you an idea about the perception in terms of when we thought about the CCTV camera, and then what is that everybody explained, Rajat, everything out. There is a software available, that is a mapping software. So that map the devices. So when you look at it, some object, it maps the devices to figure it out, whether it is human or whether it is car or whatever it is. So that's the, in terms of mapping software is available. They actually map. And in the same time, like in a perception on human side, we can see that we call is our mind. We call a man. Man is one of the things that actually it try to is similar to mapping the device. When you see something object out there, our mind will directly goes there and try to figure it out what exactly it is. It is the faculty is going to see the outside world through the sensory organ, and they try to figure it out what I'm seeing it right now. The first thing through the sensory organ comes to is our mind, man. Mind is man. Like, let's think about the mind is we call as man right now. There are different faculties of the mind that we'll talk about when we go for the next stages right now. But the mind is the one that is going to see first outside through the sensory organ. So that is correct. And anybody can actually explain what the mind does, like what exactly the function of the mind, man. We're talking about man. And the same thing in CCTV camera. As soon as there's a mapping software is presented to the object, what it does, it tries to something to figure it out, right? Can anybody explain about what our mind does? And at the same time, CCTV, like, you can open the floor for anybody to jump in. What's the function of the mind? Rajat?
So with the human mind, mind has memories of stuff, memories of all various things, feelings, and basically everything. So let's say if you saw someone, mind remembered the face, and now if you knew the name of the person, then you would have registered the name and the face in the mind, like not manually registered, but it would be done unconsciously or subconsciously. And then when you see that person again, you would just remember that's the person. The same with the shapes and objects. So let's say you saw a shape called square. Now we didn't know it was called square before, but now once we have saw that this is a square, we can see that shape anywhere and everywhere, and we'll determine that that is a square and it's not a rectangle. Like, we can differ between shapes, objects, we can differ between people, just because of the mind and the memories that are registered or saved in the mind.
Your great explanation, Rajat. I think we are getting very interesting debate right now and discussion right now. When we say mind, like in a Western terms, there's a we call mind that actually we talk about it when you see the mind and intellect, and then it should actually look at the background to see what is in a storage. But in our Vedic philosophy or whatever in Hindu philosophy, mind, we have a different, we call a man, right? Man is not a mind. Man here we call a mind, but there is other function. Rajat, we talk about it that when we see the square, what, how do you recognize it is a square? What faculty, other faculty that can actually bring it into the function that you see that it's square? How do you know that actually is square?
So
You have the knowledge
so-
previously. How do you, what are the faculties that you're trying to get it? Like, just give an idea about it. So at least the stage is
Sure.
happening.
Sure. So the main faculty with the square would be our eyes. So let's say when we were a small child or small children, what were like when our parents or anybody showed us shapes and they were assigning the shapes. So they were assigning the names to the shapes for us, right? So they thought this is called a circle. Now, when they say this is called a circle, we were seeing the circle, we were seeing the shape, and that's how we form like that's how an opinion or a decision was formed that this particular shape is a circle, this particular shape is a square. But let's say if someone was blind, then for them, eyes won't be the important sensory organ, or eyes won't be the sensory organ, but their hands would be the sensory organ. So we'll have to draw, like we'll have to show them shapes in physical form rather than in just drawing form, and make them know that this particular shape, it's called square. This particular shape or this particular object is cubical, it's cube, and that would be like, and this particular object is spherical in shape or spherical in nature and stuff like that.
Thank you. Let's move to the, Dinesh bhai raised hand. Let's move to the next step 5. I think it's good to go ahead, Dinesh bhai.
Yeah, mind, as mentioned, it is a sankalp or vikalp, means whether it is this or it is that. When you said that it is a square, that means it is not a circle. So the distinction which is being made is the function of the mind to decide what it is, this or that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the punchline here. The function of man is to doubt. Just mere the concept of doubting. Oh, is it this or is it that? That itself ignites that's one of the igniting process to decision making, whether this is absolutely 101%, yes, this is square. Before we reach to that decision making, there is a process, and we are peeling the onion here, right? And the idea is to dive deep now. And when we dive deep into this decision making process, to be 101% sure this is square, there are a lot of small steps happening in the camera or a computer system or an artificial intelligence system or a human mind. And the component that raises the doubt, because without doubt, it's impossible to move further. You must have some doubt, or you might be absolutely 101% clear. If there is a doubt, which component takes care of doubting it with the options? Like, is it circle? Is it square? Because remember, when kids draw the shapes, like a small baby drawing a shape, sometimes it might get confused with, oh, whether it is square or circle, because the kid might not have gotten the shape perfectly drawn, right? So sometimes it's very difficult to distinguish between which shape is that, right? So there is a doubt that there is something called as doubt, whether it's this or that. And what we are saying is, what with Miteshbhai is trying to leaning towards is, it's the man, its primary responsibility is to doubt when things are not clear, or when you have several options to choose from in order to make, or in order to make a decision, or in order to come to the conclusion. And that doubting system is called as man. And then there are other three components in the decision making, which he's going to probably talk about. But I think the punchline is that first you go through, there is some sensation that there is something out there. Something is out there through our sensory organs. Not sure what that is, but there's something out there, which is sensation, stimulation, right? And then when we perceive, we actually start the process of doubting whether it's this or that, or third or fourth, or whatever that options are. And then what we do is, as he's showing recollection, we tend to, as I think somebody already said, that somebody has trained us that, oh, look, this, if you see this, then that means square. I forgot the name. Who was that?
Rajat.
Rajat. That's very good point. Somebody has trained us with the prior knowledge. Somebody, or we have trained ourselves by our past experiences, or past errors that we have made, or mistakes that we have made. Somebody has taught us or trained our mind, or we have trained ourselves, and thus we have memory of experiences, right? We tend to use that memory in making the decision and resolving the doubt. That is what he's coming toward. That's what we are coming towards, number 5, step number 5, if that makes sense. So anybody wants to dive deep into recollection, what that is?
Sanvi?
So recollection will be like accessing the memory. I mean, accessing our memories like brain or something, right?
Yeah.
Like you say you had some doubt, so it is trying to search in its part of the memory part of the brain. Okay, I'm seeing something or visualizing something. So what is the closest thing that I have already have it in my mind? So it is trying to match it to that and then give us an approximate answer that, yeah, maybe this is square or this is round or this is oval, whatever the shape or the person, right?
Yeah, good answer. There's complex set of logic, if then else, right? If this is this, then
Yes.
this, or if there's this, then this. Think about it, it's a complex logic that is built into your neurons. Brain consists of neurons, so it's a complex set of rules that you have come up with to understand or recognize an object.
Or we can say it's like constant deductions that the mind is doing and to arrive at a particular conclusion, right? So
Yeah.
and
Wait,
it's the same thing I think current AI technology uses, right? It uses this training models. So it trains a
Absolutely.
system.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. AI system use training to
training
train our
models. Yes.
training the
Yeah.
model. Yep. Yep.
Like
Absolutely.
a
Great point.
always learning, and then that feed it into somewhere, right? And then always recognize it. Sanvi?
Yeah, so I think the buddhi like makes decisions, and it's like the organ that makes decisions of like that resolves the doubts of the man. And I also have like a question. So like the man does sankalp and vikalp, and raises doubts, but doesn't it also like, isn't it the origin of like wants or desires too?
Perfect. Perfect question. Yes, it also plays a very important role. Whether should I inquire in this matter or should I not? Right? Like, is it something that of my importance? Should I pay attention or not? To square or not? That's also a good question. Is that a function of man or something else? Let's have a discussion.
Hello. Yeah, Dawal bhai, I just wanted to inquire that here we are mentioning that function of buddhi is nischay, sansay, etc. Now, but when we go and search in our storage, which is stored in our self, so the information will be stored in our chit, no? Buddhi will decide what to do and what not to do. And what the object is or what we fathom, we understand.
True, but the question that I think it was Sanvi who asked about man, and the question she asked is, to doubt is also one of the functions of man, but in addition, isn't that the case that man is also taking care of desires? Like, whether should I inquire into this matter or not? Is that the part of man or not? We see millions of objects at every point of time, right? Do we start decision making process for each object? Like I right now I'm seeing TV. I don't start thinking too much about TV. Or I see books, I see library before me. I don't start thinking about too much about those things. There's something that is making a decision. No, this is something I want to go into depth and start the thinking process, and rest of things I'm going to ignore. Which is that component?
I think like whenever we perceive an object through our sensory organs, our mind might be like creating it could also be doubting whether it wants that specific object or not in relation to like the idea of desires, and then the buddhi would be determining whether the man should go after that want, or it should, or whether it should or it shouldn't go after that desire and make it happen. So the buddhi is like it's kind of like the neutral aspect where it sorts out the pros and cons and tells the man if it should achieve that want. That, yeah, that's what I think.
Very well said. This is perfect. So man takes the call whether should we inquire into this object further or not, catering to our needs and desires. And it is the buddhi and intellect which starts doubting whether is it this or that. And even if it also takes the decision, helps in decision making process also, and come to the conclusion also, buddhi. But then buddhi also is dependent on certain things. It cannot make decisions on its own, or it cannot doubt on its own. For it to doubt, it needs to know the prior experiences or logic, right? What is that? What is those past experiences? Which component is that?
See, when you're walking it, you see a lot of people around you, and you know somebody that you would like to just connect with them, because that's what Dhavalbhai mentioned here, that when you see there are a lot of people going when you're walking, but suddenly you recognize that, oh, this is the guy. So that's what I'm thinking. Oh, I would like to talk to this guy because I know, or whether I don't want to talk to him because it's my enemy. So what faculty is actually coming in now to figure that out, whether I would have to talk to him or not to talk to him? Probably we can go to the next stage of 6. Maybe that'll help.
Recognition.
The unconscious mind or the chit?
Perfect.
Absolutely. Whoa, bingo.
Great. Yeah, we are getting it there now. So
Yeah, chit is the collection of past experiences, bad or good or neutral. It's kind of a long-term storage or kind of mid-term storage. Maybe a hard disk. Can we compare that with computer system as hard disk? Yes or no?
Yes, hard disk or maybe a server or cloud, you can say.
Yeah, cloud.
yeah, with a lot of memories, whatever you can put it there. Bad experience, good experience, all kind of stuff is actually storing our memory.
So it's interesting what has happened, like since machine learning has evolved and AI has evolved. Initially, when Google Translate was written, the code of Google Translate was written, it was a million lines of code. And then with the evolution of machine learning, now the code is actually, the original code that was written was 100 lines. And everything else was getting stored in the cloud. It was learning on its own and it was getting stored in the cloud. So it's interesting how that has evolved. And another thing to like consider, pay attention to is how in the Western science, like the way we analyze brain is like there are different areas of brain that conducts all these different functions. And it's like, you know, the right side of the brain does this, the prefrontal cortex does a certain other function, the left side of the brain has another function. But in our system, in Indian system, what we're doing is it's a layered approach, like what is the next deeper layer, what goes deeper. And so it's a very layered structure that we're kind of studying right now. So anyone else wants to say something about chit or self-awareness or memory-based recognition?
As we are hitting the time, I just want to invoke or maybe like ask a question to the audience to think about and ponder upon offline is, why are we taking up this topic? Are we saying that human minds are same as a camera or artificial intelligence system? That means, are humans robots? If humans are robots or robots are humans, then what is the uniqueness of our system? Our means human system, right? Because robots have everything that we have today. Artificial intelligence has enabled that robots can sense, robots can speak, robots can have emotions, robots understand language, can see, can perceive, can analyze, can make decisions. How are humans different then? Something to think about. Why we want to take up this topic is we want to understand how we acquired the knowledge. We means humans. And basically, remember our North Star. The North Star is, there are things that are experienceable, which our human system can comprehend. And there are things that are inexperienceable, which human minds may not be able to comprehend. Is God experienceable or non-experienceable? If it is non-experienceable, we should stop the inquiry. We should wrap up the classes and go to our home and sleep, right? Peacefully, right? If it's experienceable phenomena, if God is experienceable phenomena, can we apply this stimulation, sensation, perception, recollection, recognition? And if it can be very well be applied by a robot, for the matter of fact, why do we need humans?
So there's a very good question on chat. Kushali has posted, can we create consciousness in AI?
Perfect.
I think you can answer that yourself now. Khushali, do you want to try?
I recently had a class on AI and philosophy, and this is what we discussed in the entire semester. So there were various AI authors who wrote books about this, but at the end, we couldn't really specify and pinpoint to the answer that we can create consciousness. And if we can create, then what is the difference between the human and the robot that we are creating? And if that happens, then are we the agents of our own doom, or do we even, or do the robots that we are creating have politics? Are they political in nature? So it is a very difficult question, I would say.
Mhm.
I would say that I'm still kind of in the process of figuring out an answer for that. But this discussion for sure helped me understand it more better.
Perfect. That's a segue to our next class, next session, which is consciousness. Do robots have consciousness or only humans have consciousness? And what is consciousness, first of all? That's something we want to lead you into the discussion. That's a segue to that session. That's why we took up this topic.
So here, like we discussed this like about man, buddhi. Buddhi does nischay sansay, that means, and then we also discuss about chitta, that goes to the memory. So mind will take in, the buddhi will, it says sankalp vikalp. So it says, oh, whether it is car or whether it is human. And then it will talk to buddhi. So that means some data processing algorithm that will figure it out, yes or no. But again, in order to do yes and no, you need to go to the backward something other memory that is already fed in, that we call chit or self-awareness. There's a memory already there. It will check based on your past experience, our past knowledge, and we see that right or wrong. Again, we just have another 2 minutes for the 7th segment. Who is going to confirm and just says, yes, go ahead and do that? Can somebody probably, who's going to do confirmation, says, yes, let's go. This is what I see. Oh, this is car, or this is human. Or we see that, oh, this is my friend when we're talking about it. So there is a 4th dimension. Here we can see the 7 is a conception that is going to finalize this thing that we call ahankar, ego. That will give the confirmation. Anybody can jump in, 2 minutes. I think then probably we conclude that over all the 7 stages. We will definitely discuss further and elaborate more on, again, consciousness as we move forward. Right? Is anybody following me? Because one will do something, buddhi will function itself, do the finalization, it will go back to the chit, make sure that whether right or wrong. But who is going to finalize this thing, right? All these 4 antakaran, we call antakaran, that is binding by ahankar, that we call ego. That's actually make that final call. See how complex the system is actually, that Sanvi mentioned about it, that it's very difficult and actually very complex. We just see that it happened in fraction of second. But there are different faculties involved, and I think it's very good learning based on CCTV camera that how it actually happened. We're already 10 minutes more than our timing right now. I would like to thank everyone. Sanvi, 1 minute.
So I think the ahankar like allows us to form ideas about the specific object and understand its properties. But I think along with that, it also gives us awareness of ourselves in a way, and our existence. That's what I think. I'm not sure.
No, that's great. Ahankar is actually binding everything together. That's what it is, Ahankar. That's our ego, that self that recognize, yeah, who am I? When we born it, we have the ego. There are different kind of ego. Definitely we'll get to that different topic of the ego when we go to the next stages, like what kind of bad ego, good ego, whatever it is, how it actually functions. And then it's a good idea to discuss these things. So in our Hindu philosophy, this antakaran is very important. That has a mind, buddhi, chit, and ahankar that combine together, and we call antakaran. That as a different function that make you aware about what's going on and decide whether it is right or wrong. And believe it or not, sometimes it create error. You can see that in a CCTV camera, error can happen. It same thing. We will have the error coming up. It's good idea to know that at what stage the error will coming in. So definitely we'll move in a future session. We'll talk about if you think when we see it, what out of this one, which faculty is going to create error, like how it is going to error, what the function of the error. We'll definitely discuss in the next stage. This is a really good discussion. I'm going to open a floor for 1 or 2 minutes to provide any input on these things, and then we'll conclude the session.
Also, if anybody has missed responding to the survey, please do that about the session today.
Thanks to Dhaval Bhai, Mitesh Bhai, and Nupur. It was an excellent session today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending this session. We're looking forward to another session which will go into deep dive into this particular consciousness, that what you talk about. Think about it. We'll post this one on our YouTube channel. Think about it. We'll prepare for the next session. We will announce in our WhatsApp group. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Jai Shri Krishna.
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 Yes, Krishna.
Okay.